Tēnā koutou katoa, e mihi ana ki a koutou kua hui hui mai nei mo te kōrero kai whakaako I te taha a Kiri Wills. Kia ora everyone, thank you for joining us in week 2 of Coaches Kōrero. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Kiri Wills, head coach of the Robin Hood Northern Stars. Tēnā koe Kiri, thank you for taking some time to share your coaching wisdom with our netball whānau.
Kia ora Shani, he tino pai te reo. Kei te ako au I te reo, so I'm learning the language as well, but I think I'm a little ways behind you.
Still learning too.
Good start, I like it.
Awesome. Kiri, I was hoping you might like to start us off by just sharing your coaching journey to date and just a little bit about how you got into coaching in the first place.
When I was growing up, all I wanted to do was be a teacher, and then I decided, because I love playing sport, that it would be PE. So did a degree at the University of Otago, and then my first job, I think Te Aroha Keenan had a little bit of a hand in it, but I became a sports administrator at Barradine College, and like any school back then, that was a long time ago, 22 years ago, like any school now and then, coaches were really hard to come by, and I was in charge of helping Leanne Clark find those coaches, and so I had one less coach by coaching the Year 19-1 team myself. So that's how I got into it, and I had great mentors in Sue Tapani, Robin Manahira and Leanne, who were all involved in that school at the time. So yeah, and I loved it.
Yeah, some great mentors in there as well.
Yeah.
Do you also just want to give us a bit of a resume of the different teams that you've coached right up to your current role now with the Northern Stars?
Yeah, so did a lot of school teams and moved, as I got better at my job, I moved into different roles with schools. So from Barradine, I went to Auckland Girls Grammar and coached their number 1 team, the premier team, and at that stage they were a real superpower in netball, with Te Aroha leading that program, and prior to her, Rita Whatialofa. So I was determined that I would, as a coach, work my way up and take that team to nationals and do the business, which we did, and had some pretty amazingly talented girls within that squad and in the opposition as well. And then from there, it just rolled on, really. Just got into under 15 B team reps for Auckland, coached Auckland Waitakere at MPC, and then I had my children, and Ruth Aitken had a year, I think if people remember, Deb Fuller took a year off coaching the Mystics because of her children at home in Tauranga, and Ruth and I stepped in, and I was assistant coach there. Did New Zealand secondary schools, and then probably one of the best assignments I've had to date was the New Zealand under-21s team going to the World Youth Cup in Botswana, and winning that was stressful. 4 years of work relying on 2 games is a really, really stressful place to be, but an amazing experience, and again a fantastic group of girls. And then I actually did my interview for the Stars while I was in Africa, and over the phone, which was really hard because the technology over there wasn't that great, and so it was a really difficult interview. But and then I went off the grid for about 2 weeks exploring Africa, and meanwhile they're trying to get contracts to me and things like that. So, and here I am.
Oh, awesome resume. We'll go straight to, in your Northern Stars team, you've got a wide range of cultures. You've got Samoan, Cook Island, Palauan, Māori, Caribbean, Tongan, Fijian, and European. Why is a culturally diverse approach really important to how you operate as a coach?
I think when you come through the age groups and things like that, the more and more stress is applied to athletes, and whenever you get in a really tough place as an athlete, it's really important to understand who you are and why you do things. And I think it's a catchphrase in all sport, what's your why? Everybody's seen the videos, but it's hugely important, and at this level, to know and understand who you are is what gives you comfort, and it gives you stability. So culture is a part of that, and I think that in our team we celebrate that a lot, and we try to highlight everybody's differences, and I think that's a strength to our game in New Zealand, is the diversity of play. You know, what one goalkeeper brings to a team, say Sulu Tony Fitzpatrick, is completely different to a Daystar Swift, who's completely different to a Timilisi Whakahokato. So diversity is key for us moving forward as a nation, to perform at our best and to be world champions. And then, yeah, for me, it's just about giving the athletes a really clear foundation when the crap hits the fan, because it often does. It's a really tough environment, and knowing what they can fall back on, and building that in the team so that we all understand each other is the other thing. And it's a critical game where you understand your relationships with your teammates, and the more they know about each other, the easier it is for them to operate. And I've just found that teams embrace it.
Awesome. Sounds like it's a definite key strength.
Yeah.
Just another question. Coaches often mention that they've had challenging conversations with parents around maybe court time or starting lineup, or decisions that coaches have made, or even, you know, wanting their child to play with an injury at a tournament so that they could be seen by selectors. What are some of your tips around managing that?
It obviously depends on the age group of the players involved. So at the moment, I've coached my daughter since year 3, so it's a different conversation from year 3 to year 13. But I think where this comes into play more is in that teenage age group, when players or show an interest in wanting to be better, and parents have seen a little bit of spark of talent, so they get really involved and supportive. And I think my approach has always been to be open and welcoming and friendly, and but really setting a boundary between what that relationship really looks like. I've never really got into trouble around having too close a relationship with some of the parents within the group, because you're going to like different people in a massive group. You're going to like different people better. But and you know, I could hang out and have a wine with some of the parents. They're cool people, but you've got to really maintain that balance between where the relationship starts and finishes, because in the end, in an age group team or a senior school team, those athletes need to be learning to talk to you one-on-one and not hiding behind their parents. And so I never really enter into conversations around performance at that age group with parents unless I have some major concerns around what's going on with their child that potentially they might not know about, or that we need to get through together. But I know that some of my colleagues in school teams they've shown me like screeds and screeds of texts that they're getting from parents. And I pretty much go out right from the outset off the bat and say, my relationship is with your daughters on the court. Your role is to support your daughter and to look after her. I will always do my best by my athletes, and you're just going to have to trust me on that. And I've also got to show them that. So I think it's not just I say you're this and this is what you have to do. You have to show that you do care and you can be trusted to look after their daughters. And because in the end, it's a duty of care. And that for me ticks off the box around the injury. Your role is not just about their immediate future of that game and that selection. Your role is around their long-term future, and whether that be that they're just going to play for fun because they love the game, or they go on to be a silver fern, there's a responsibility about looking after those girls. And that can be sometimes tough to hear. So the selection question around, I've got to get out there, you know, the selectors are watching and I need to get into the New Zealand under-21s team, all those conversations. The reality is that the selectors are not going to make a decision based on one performance. They'll have a history of your performances over a period of time. So they will have been looking at you in all sorts of environments. They'll be getting feedback from your coaches. So that one game will not make a difference. So you're better to listen to your body and your coach physio, I'd be really bringing my physio into that if you've got that support, or going and seeking that support if you haven't got it. But it's a duty of care. We've got to look after these athletes. It's not great when athletes come to us at my level and they've got a history of injuries, because those histories tend to continue. The healthier they come into the ANZ or BICO environment, the more likely they are to strive and survive, and their journey is just easier. So I hope that's enough for that question.
Yeah. I think that's some great holistic advice around that relationship with parents, and keeping it really clear and concise, and just understanding it's with their daughters, and you want that open and honest conversations with the players themselves. You spoke about your relationship with your physios, which I think leads into to this next question. In terms of what are some of the things that you do to build a relationship with your coaching team, your assistant coach, manager, physio, strength and conditioning trainer, etc.?
Yeah, probably the biggest push-pull is the coach-physio relationship, and Shaz, the Stars physio, and I have lots of challenging conversations. They're part of the team, so any team building that I do, or currently while we're in lockdown, we've got a whole lot of little challenges going on. Team management are part of those teams. We don't just sit back and let the playing group do those things. They're part of it, because they've got to have great relationships with all of the players in the team as well. But I think the main thing is that you select your staff based on skill sets that they bring. So give them the opportunities to shine and allow them to do their jobs. I don't micromanage my staff. If I've got an S&C question, even though I've got a phys ed degree, I still defer to my trainer, and she leads those conversations. And likewise, I think the hardest thing for me coming into the Stars was having a full-time manager, because for New Zealand under-21s, you have a touring manager, so I did all the bookings and things, and so I think I was a little bit annoying for Dee. When I started out this role, I got in her hair a little bit, but allow your staff to do their jobs, and if there are disagreements, take them away from the players. The players should see you as a united front, and sure, those relationships are going to break down, but any disagreements have to be taken away from the players. And even if there's a moment where you're like, oh, I don't really want the players to be told that, you don't jump in on top of that person and squash them right there. You go back, you have a discussion, and then you go back to the team and you say, hey, look, we've had a chat about it, and we've decided that actually we're not going to do it like that. We're going to try this approach, so that you never undermine each other. So play to their strengths. That's why they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. A great question we've had is, what are skills that you've learned as a coach that all of us can use in our everyday relationships?
Communication is critical, and it's such a boring answer, but building those relationships and having trust. And I think in COVID-19, we've had to be stuck with our families for long periods, sustained periods of time, and that's quite unusual in today's busy lifestyles. And so it probably is a bit challenging for a few, but what we've tried to avoid is the old passive-aggressive conversations. So instead of me sitting looking outside going, oh, the lawns are getting long, they'll probably need to be mowed. It's basic. We've changed our language to, I just ask my husband to do it. I'll give him a couple of days before I go back and say, hey, baby, you're going to do those lawns, rather than nag. So I think it's just get rid of any subliminal messages, especially husband to wife, partner. I think it's the partnership. The kids are fine, but it's definitely the relationship with your significant other. Just make sure that it's clear, and you're being upfront, and get on with things.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one last question for you, Kiri. You sort of talked about it in your introduction, but are there what coaches, leaders, or mentors have had a real positive impact on you? And what was it that had that impact?
I've had some amazing coaches as a player, and also lots of mentors as a coach. So Te Aroha Keenan features quite significantly as both. So she was New Zealand under-21s coach when I was playing. She didn't pick me for the World Cup, which we always laugh about, but she just managed to maintain that relationship with me and pushed me into coaching at a higher level. So she was quite influential on me in terms of coaching and talent spotting. She's got a real eye for picking up good talent. Robin Manahira, Sue Tarpany and Leanne, they looked after me a lot when I was younger and encouraged me to carry on with my coaching. And then probably the most significant coach as a player was Nolene, and the results, she's God in coaching at the moment, and she hasn't changed a lot from what I can see. And I would have played for Magic for probably 13 years ago. She just is really authentic, and I think that's the key and that goes back to that cultural heritage and knowing who you are. She's really sure of who she is, and so delivers messages and is unafraid of being bold with her media announcements and things like that, mainly because she knows who she is. So been really lucky. And of course Ruth Aitken has been really influential as well. She was a mentor for Julie Seymour and I over at World Youth Cup, and it was so good just having a more experienced eye, keeping an eye on us and challenging us around our game plans, around our substitutions, what our planned substitutions were. She really would give us the rundown before we went into team talk to make sure we knew what we were doing. So learned a lot from her as well. So been very, very lucky. There's so many more I could mention, and I'm sorry if I've forgotten anyone.
No, they all sound absolutely amazing. Just to sort of sum up some key things that we've discussed, because around building those effective relationships comes down to being really open, clear and honest about what you want to get across. I really like what you spoke about in terms of being really authentic and understanding who you are, and it's really expressed in your Northern Stars team with all the different cultures that you got. And I truly understand that as a great strength to have within a team. So I just want to say another thank you so much, Kiri, for sharing your amazing wisdom with everybody. Ngā mihi ki a koe, and yeah, all the best for when we hopefully come out of this wāhui, we can get some games underway.
Yeah, totally looking forward to it. And all the teams all the ANZ girls from the bottom of the South Island to my girls up in Kirikiri and Northland, they're all working really, really hard so that when we get the opportunity to play, all 6 teams will be out there and gunning for it. So we're looking forward to it. Thanks, Shani, and I hope people get something out of it.